Bueno, como ha dicho Ladis, estamos aquí para hablar del Mundial, todo lo que compete a mi futuro, esperaré a final del Mundial. Bueno, intento no darle mucha importancia, sé que forma parte de a lo que me dedico, sobre todo bueno, pues cuando un jugador llega a ese tiempo al final del contrato, es normal que suenen los nombres, pero bueno, yo estoy muy tranquilo, tengo las ideas claras y ya te digo que quizás si no hubiese habido un Mundial, pues ahora estaría en otra dinámica, con un Mundial por delante, mi responsabilidad es centrarme.
The reason he said what he said is because he's on international duty with Spain at the moment. He's not with his club. When you're with your club media department really control who you speak to and in a sense what you say. But he's been very honest in his interview. I think what he's had to say is surprising and also not surprising. The reason it's not surprising is because he's obviously a great Spanish player, and why wouldn't he want to go back and play in Spain, especially for a club like Real Madrid? The reason it's surprising, though, is if you just go back a couple of years ago to when he won the Ballon d'Or, you remember Real Madrid players were so upset that they basically boycotted the whole ceremony because they thought that Vinicius Junior should have won it instead. And also given his past history of playing for Atletico, but he himself has made it clear that he would have no issues with playing for Real Madrid. One other reason why it's not surprising is he's actually said this before. A couple of years ago, he said basically exactly the same thing. He said, look, if a club like Real Madrid come along, you always have to listen to what they have to say. Interestingly, in another part of this interview that he's given in Spain, he was asked whether he himself had heard from Real Madrid, whether they liked him, whether they wanted him, and he said, I don't know. They wouldn't talk to me in that scenario, they talk to my agent.
OK, that is interesting. I mean, obviously, City have got to let him go before any of this happens. Would City even entertain letting a player of Rodri's quality go?
Not at all. He is one of the best midfielders we've ever seen in England. He's one of the best players Manchester City have had. He's won everything at City. He's got a year left on his contract. He's had a serious knee injury. It's taken him a while to recover from that. I think when the time is right, City will sit down with him and talk about giving him a new contract. You also have to remember that Bernardo Silva is out of contract this summer as well. So would City really contemplate the prospect of losing both Bernardo Silva and Rodri in the same summer? I think that is totally unthinkable, even though they are being linked with moves for other midfielders who may or may not become available in the transfer market this summer. Players like Adam Wharton, Elliot Anderson, Carlos Baleba, and also Sandro Tonali. I think what City will try and do is just sit down with Rodri and say, look, we need to sort out a new contract because we don't want you going anywhere.
Yeah. And from Real Madrid's point of view, you mentioned there that Rodri's saying, well, they haven't spoken to me. That doesn't mean they haven't spoken to his agent at some point. Do they actually want him? Do they need someone like him in that position?
This is music to Real Madrid's ears. I think Real Madrid must love international breaks because all these great players are always being asked about the possibility of playing for Real Madrid one day. Look, what we know is that Real Madrid do want to sign a midfielder this summer. They're interested in players like Enzo Fernandez at Chelsea. They've also been linked with Moise Caicedo at Chelsea as well. Just looking at the way Real Madrid operate in the transfer market and looking at Rodri's contract situation, he's got one more year left on his contract. So I would hazard a guess that if Real Madrid really do want him, they would wait until he's out of contract so they could get him on a free.
Like they did with Trent Alexander-Arnold.
Like they've done with so many players in the past.
Yeah.
They know what they're doing.
Let's start with that big transfer story then. Anderson off to City for £116 million. It's a lot of money. Is he worth it?
Well, we'll see over the next sort of 4 to 5 years. I think there's a lot of transfers over the years, or we've all sort of bald when you see the actual, price figure, and you'll say the player's not worth it. But if the player goes on to be a success in Manchester City and they continue how successful they've been over the last 4 to 5 years, and I said if that continues again over the length of the contract for Elliot Anderson, it will be worth it. But it does feel like a lot right now, but we've said that with numerous players over the years.
How do you see him fitting in this City side? Is it a Rodri replacement? Is he a player that could play alongside him? And in terms of Enzo Maresca coming in and fitting in under his system?
I think this was a deal Manchester City would have done if Pep Guardiola was still at the club. So I think it's not just about the manager, maybe Maresca saying, he really, likes the player. I think this was a deal Manchester City wanted to get done anyway. There was a lot of noises before I think Pep, left Manchester City. Who will he play with? I think they want to keep Rodri at the club. I think there's noises around him as well with Real Madrid. But when you think of Rodri and Bernardo Silva last season, in the second half of the season, they were fantastic as a midfield pair, especially in that Carabao Cup final against Arsenal. And I think with Bernardo Silva moving on to Real Madrid, I think it's just the obvious, spot now for Elliot Anderson to join Rodri, and that will be a really formidable midfield.
Manchester City could be approaching the most important decision of the Enzo Maresca era, and it centres on one player. Rodri has just captained Spain to World Cup glory and won the Golden Ball, yet he is now preparing for back surgery with only 1 year remaining on his City contract. Real Madrid's interest has not disappeared, and the question facing the Etihad hierarchy is brutally simple. Keep one of the best midfielders in world football, or sell before his value begins to fall. This is not an ordinary transfer story. Rodri is the player who controls City's tempo, protects the defence, and decides when a match should speed up or slow down. Losing him would not simply remove a midfielder. It could force Maresca to redesign the entire structure of his team. City are already in the middle of a major transition. Pep Guardiola has gone after 10 years, while Manuel Akanji, Nathan Ake, Bernardo Silva and John Stones have also left the treble-winning squad. Elliot Anderson has arrived from Nottingham Forest in a £116 million deal, and 17-year-old Jeremy Monga has joined as another investment in the future. But Rodri remains the biggest piece on Maresca's board. Speaking at his first City news conference, the new manager made his position clear. He described Rodri as a top player every coach would want and said the midfielder would rest, recover from surgery and return to the club. Publicly, at least, City's plan is to keep him. The difficulty is timing. Rodri is 30, his current deal expires next summer, and his return date is uncertain. Selling him after surgery could protect City financially, but replacing his intelligence, experience and positional discipline may cost far more than any transfer fee they receive. Maresca's football makes that dilemma even more complicated. His teams usually attack in a 3-2-2-3 shape. They may defend with 4 at the back, but once possession is secured, one player moves into midfield and the entire structure changes. It is a system built on rotations, awareness, and players understanding several positions at once. Rodri is almost perfect for it. He can drop between the centre-backs to help City build from deep, remain as the holding midfielder, or move forward when space opens. During Spain's World Cup campaign, he repeatedly changed position without damaging the balance of the team. That flexibility would allow Maresca to alter the shape without making a substitution. And this is where Elliot Anderson becomes crucial. The 23-year-old has played across midfield, in attacking roles, and even deeper positions. Alongside Rodri, Anderson could sit back while the Spaniard moves forward. Minutes later, they could exchange responsibilities. If defenders such as Marc Guehi or Josko Gvardiol carry the ball into midfield, one of them could drop to cover the space. Sky Sports has suggested that Anderson and Rodri could form a formidable partnership, while City are also monitoring Lille's 18-year-old Morocco international Ayoub Bouadi. Bouadi has experience in holding midfield, at right back and in central defence, exactly the kind of positional versatility Maresca values. The plan appears to be bigger than finding one direct replacement. City want several intelligent, adaptable players who can rotate through Maresca's system. It could make the team more fluid, less predictable and harder to press. But it will take time. Rodri needed several seasons to master Guardiola's football, learning alongside Fernandinho. Anderson and Bouadi may have enormous potential, but Expecting either player to immediately reproduce Rodri's control would be a major gamble. Maresca does have a record of finding unexpected solutions. He helped turn John Stones into a midfielder during City's treble season. At Chelsea, he moved Moises Caicedo from right back into central midfield during possession and used Marc Cucurella in more advanced areas. That creativity may become essential if Rodri leaves. So City now face two very different risks. Keep Rodri, and they could lose him for a reduced fee, or even nothing, if a new contract is not agreed. Sell him, and Maresca could begin his first season without the one midfielder best suited to making his system work. The next decision will reveal more than Rodri's future. It will show whether Manchester City are rebuilding around their proven leader or preparing for life without him. Rodri may be heading for surgery, but the real operation is taking place inside City's midfield. And by the time the transfer window closes, we may discover whether Maresca's first great decision has protected Manchester City's future or removed the player holding it together.